So, you're worried that the phone lines will go down and you won't be able to reach anybody in your area or even further. As everybody is worried, eventually your cell phone may not always work and we'll be resorting to using one of these to talk to and from each other. But these only get about a mile or two if you're lucky. Well, of course, other than using this little FRS walkie-talkie, the thing that connects to it, of course, you have another option, using a GMRS radio, such as this, with a fully legal 5-watt use. Or, there's a second option. You see, all the radios that you see like this, or maybe even this, all operate on something called VHF and UHF communications. Basically, that is a specific amount of megahertz that frequency sits in, or kilohertz, whatever you want to go by. This here sits in the 462 megahertz area. This here sits in the 144 megahertz area. Now, for normal people, that doesn't mean anything. What that really means is, as far as the radio can physically see just a little bit over the horizon of the natural Earth's curvature, well, then that is how far you're going to talk. Unless, of course, you got something like a repeater that you transmit a signal to and it broadcasts over a huge range, which then that range becomes ever so slightly over the Earth's curvature from what the repeater sees. But even then, whenever you're on 2 meter, 70 centimeter, sometimes 6 meter, or anything that is a smaller wavelength, you're going to be dealing with line of sight communications. Well, what if you're not trying to only talk out 100 miles? You're trying to talk to somebody 500 miles away. See, that is where HF, or something called shortwave, comes in. You may sometimes hear it for whenever you hear people on CB talk. That is called 11 meters. They call it the meters due to its wavelength, also due to its frequency. But that's not important. What is important is the fact that whenever you get down to the 24 to 30 megahertz area, that is whenever things start reliably bouncing off of the ionosphere up in the sky, making it to where it can travel anywhere from 10 miles to 200, 300, 400, all depending on the atmospheric conditions. Now, you'll hear me all the time on this channel talk about how power isn't everything. Well, it's totally different in shortwave. Power can be everything alongside your antenna tuning. For anybody who's out there listening to CB radio, then you know the name Mud Duck in the Desert on Channel 19. He is running probably about 10,000 watts, and everybody in the United States can hear him from wherever they are. Even people up in Canada and far away on the other side of the world can hear him reliably, clearly. And that is in part due to three things. One, the frequency or wavelength. The frequency that he's sitting on is incredibly low. It is going to bounce all around in the ionosphere until it hits one of us. Number two, his antenna tuning. If you get your SWR, or your standing wave ratio, down to a 1.0, then you have perfect tuning and you're going to transmit a whole lot better. And number three is the power he is putting out. Whenever you have an incredible amount of power, especially in these shortwave bands, then you'll start being able to force your way into having what is called skip or DX. And long term, it is long communication. You can talk to somebody hundreds of miles away without the need of a phone. Which is where something like this comes in handy. See, I'm able to hear Mud Duck in the Desert all the way in Ohio from Nevada. And that was due to the aforementioned three things I was talking about with shortwave radio. So, whenever I get the comments and the videos and the messages, I always get the same couple ones as, well, I live in Michigan and my family lives in Florida. How can I talk to them without the use of a cell phone? Well, like I said, get a super low frequency that you can both go to, get an antenna match of 1.0 SWR with high gain, and turn your power up as much as you can. Invest in linear amplifiers and anything else like that. If you're that concerned about talking to these people, you're not worried about FCC rules and regulations.